BoJack Horseman has ended, and everything is worse now. It's been just around 10 months since the very last episode of the Netflix original series BoJack Horseman aired, and I think it's pretty clear that the cultural impact of BoJack Horseman will be strong and long-lasting. Genuinely, no piece of art has shaped my worldview more than BoJack has. I've made videos on it, I've introduced it to so many friends, it's such a good show. So today, I want to face the challenge and try to rank every single one of the 75 episodes of the show. This is every episode of BoJack Horseman ranked. Spoilers for seasons 1 through 6 ahead. Upon ranking these episodes, I grouped them into 3 different categories: episodes that are fine, episodes that are great, and episodes that are phenomenal. I will also not be including the Christmas special or Horsing Around because they aren't technically part of the show, but if you already love BoJack Horseman, both are well worth a watch. I'm going to skip ahead and put the rankings for the fine episodes and great episodes on screen right now just for time's sake. Feel free to pause and read through them if you'd like. A couple of short things worth saying here as you look over these rankings: the closing image of Still Broken with BoJack and Herb looking at that facade and Herb saying, "The future is bright, just look at it," is so insanely powerful. Hooray Todd episode is incredibly charming. I'm really glad they gave a full episode to just letting Todd be Todd. And I very often think about this clip of the baboon's final line in Out to Sea.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
It gets easier.
Huh?
Every day it gets a little easier.
Yeah?
But you gotta do it every day. That's the hard part. But it does get easier.
And with that, the phenomenal episode section begins with number 17, season 3, episode 10, It's You. Not only are there hilarious Todd and Mr. Peanut Butter antics in the first half of this episode, Todd's closing monologue is so insanely memorable.
You can't keep doing shitty things and then feel bad about yourself like that makes it okay. You need to be better.
Throughout the show, we see BoJack believe that if you do bad things, you can just apologize for them and move on with your life like nothing happened. And the source of this belief is shown to be sitcoms, where everything is wrapped up cleanly in 22 minutes. You can just do bad things and apologize for them because the characters have to remain the same at the beginning of the next episode. But in that speech, Todd rebuts this idea and conveys that real friendship is not doing bad things and then just saying "I'm sorry." It is consistent work to be kind to the people around you. That's actually a very fitting transition to number 16 on the list, season 4, episode 12, What Time Is It Right Now?, which begins with Princess Carolyn giving a long speech about the dangers of internalizing fictional stories and thinking that those are akin to real life. The rest of the episode is super solid as well, as we see Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter's marriage fall apart, and Todd motivate Princess Carolyn, and BoJack give Hollyhock her mom's contact info even though he has nothing to gain from it himself. This selfless act was a really important moment of growth for him, and it ultimately reconnects him with Hollyhock. Let me just say, the smile on BoJack's face at the end of this episode after Hollyhock tells him that she's never had a brother kills me every time. Next at number 15, we have season 5, episode 5, The Amelia Earhart Story, where we get a glimpse into the environment Princess Carolyn came from as she attempts to adopt a baby. Seeing the ambition and the drive and the resilience of Princess Carolyn makes me tear up every time. I love the contrasting of Princess Carolyn's Los Angeles life with North Carolina as she constantly has to put out fires that come up back home, and the miscarriage in this episode adds a lot of context to Princess Carolyn's previous failed attempts to get pregnant. At number 14 on the list, we have season 4, episode 6, Stupid Piece of Shit, an entire episode where we can hear BoJack's internal monologue as he's just going about his day. It's such a cool concept for an episode, and I think that internal monologue is something that many people, myself included, can pretty strongly relate to. There are many smaller moments in this episode that really stick with me as well, like when Mr. Peanut Butter tells BoJack that he deserves love, and when BoJack and Hollyhock bond at the end of the episode talking about that voice in their heads. At number 13, we have season 2, episode 8, Let's Find Out. I love this episode so much, and I think that's because it's a quintessential BoJack Horseman episode. You have these really funny, absurd antics for most of the show, from novelist J.D. Salinger running a game show to Todd trying to get J.D. Salinger's pen, but then the episode ends on this really impactful revelation on depression and self-worth.
Everything comes so easy for you.
Oh, and it doesn't for you. You're a millionaire movie star with a girlfriend who loves you, acting in your dream movie. What more do you want? What else could the universe possibly owe you?
I want to feel good about myself. The way you do. And I don't know how. I don't know if I can.
At number 12, we have season 1, episode 8, The Telescope. This was the episode that made me realize BoJack Horseman was going to be an incredible show. The history of BoJack and Herb Kazaz is on full display here. Their chemistry at their best is amazing, and the decisions BoJack makes, which leads to their falling out, are portrayed empathetically yet very painfully. Additionally, Herb's closing monologue where he calls out BoJack for being someone who just does whatever he wants and doesn't care who he hurts is so telling to BoJack's character, and really makes the audience internalize how damaging this personality trait is.
You want to think of yourself as the good guy. Well, I know you better than anyone, and I can tell you that you're not. In fact, you'd probably sleep a lot better at night if you just admitted to yourself that you're a selfish goddamn coward who takes whatever he wants and doesn't give a shit about who he hurts.
At number 11, we have Season 3, Episode 4, Fish Out of Water. This is probably my hottest take on the list. I can almost feel people calling me out right now for not putting it closer to the top, but let me explain. I have nothing negative to say about this episode. Seeing Bojack try to communicate with Kelsey and Bojack connect with this newborn kid and finding fulfillment in caring for him, all while not talking, is very moving. Not to mention, the animation in this episode is some of the show's best. So many scenes are stunningly beautiful. Perhaps the reason this episode isn't closer to the top of my list isn't because of any fault of its own, but just because other episodes are so phenomenal. We're at the point where every episode I mention is absolutely superb and flawlessly executed. Which is actually a good thing to say as we transition into the top 10 episodes, which we'll kick off with number 10, Season 1, Episode 11, Downer Ending. Downer Ending is this drug-fueled hallucination of an episode that has some of the most powerful scenes in the entire show. Like the prolonged bit where Bojack lives out the life he lived if he moved to Maine with Charlotte, or the very end where Bojack pleads Diane to tell him deep down that he's good and there's still hope for him, and he's just met with silence. Not to mention, this episode has the most memorable line I've ever seen on a TV show.
Good grief. I'm so depressed. Just want everyone to love me, but I don't know how to make them do it.
You can't force love, you blockhead. All you can do is be good to the people in your life and keep your heart open.
I think about that line often. Also, I love the inclusion of the Death Grip song. That was sick. At number 9, we have Season 2, Episode 11, Escape from LA, where Bojack just inserts himself into the lives of the Carsons, people he, for the most part, only barely knows. Perhaps unsurprisingly, this goes absolutely terribly, causing that selfishness that Herb Kazaz called out in the Telescope to be on full display. The audience really internalizes how damaging Bojack's mindset, his selfish personality, is. At number 8, we have Season 5, Episode 11, The Showstopper, where Bojack's life as Filbert and his real life blend together largely because of Bojack's addiction. Bojack's face at the end of this episode will haunt me forever. I also really love the Don't Stop Dancing musical number in this one. At number 7, we have Season 4, Episode 2, The Old Sugarman Place. Absolutely adore this episode. Bojack finds a sudden fascination with the concept of place as he seeks to restore his grandparents' house. That's actually a really good one-word descriptor of what this episode is about. Place. Bojack tries to find a home in the place that was meaningful to his relatives, but that only leaves him thinking that he doesn't belong anywhere until he talks to Diane and finds comfort in their friendship. I love the contrast between Bojack's life and Henrietta's life as the two kind of seep together, love the connection he forms with his dragonfly neighbor, love the insanely dark yet somewhat hopeful ending, which is a pretty good way to describe the show as a whole, really. At number 6, we have the series finale, Season 6, Episode 16, Nice While It Lasted. This was just the perfect ending to the show, but even apart from the fact that it was the series finale, this episode was insanely good in its own right. When discussing my favorite parts of this episode, I could talk about Todd's commentary that art is more about what people get out of it than what people put into it. I could talk about Bojack's final moments with Princess Carolyn. I could talk about the fact that only the 5 main characters have any lines, but the most impactful part of this episode for me is Bojack's final conversation with Diane, something I find myself rewatching multiple times a month. There's this running theme in BoJack Horseman, which is basically just fostering emotional intimacy and human connection through mundane, everyday experiences. What I mean by this is, in Diane and Bojack's final conversation, they begin by confronting all of the emotional baggage between them, and Bojack could have very easily left after that, ending it there, but instead he stayed and talked to Diane about the family stone and various other minute aspects of his life in jail. This is a real moment of compassion for Bojack, and we see him and Diane truly connect. Moments like this happen fairly often in the show. Bojack and Hollyhock bond over Honeydew at the end of the Season 4 finale, Bojack and Diane bond over a stupid web series at the end of The Old Sugarman Place, stuff like that. And there's something really meaningful and beautiful about that to me. Also, I absolutely adore the music choice in Bojack and Diane's conversation. The song is Mr. Blue by Catherine Feeney. You should totally look it up. At number 5, we have Season 3, Episode 11, That's Too Much, Man. This episode is rough, excelling at everything from contrasting Bojack's life on Horse and Around and his real life, to his addiction, to his relationship with Sarah Lynn. I won't say much about this episode, but I'm sure any Bojack viewer has that last moment of Bojack and Sarah Lynn in the planetarium burned into their brains forever. At number 4 on our list, we have Season 4, Episode 11, Time's Arrow. Everything about this episode is either very chilling or very sweet. Mostly chilling. As we take a trip back through Beatrice's life, we see the series of events that made her the horse she is today. Standout moments include when we realize that Bojack's father is Hollyhock's father, and the burning of all of Beatrice's stuff, as well as the pain that causes. And like what we previously discussed, we see Bojack's attempt to connect with his mother through small, everyday details at the end of the episode, where he describes aspects of her Michigan home, the one featured in Old Sugarman Place. In doing so, he extends the most compassion to her we've ever seen him extend in the entire series. At number 3, we have Season 6, Episode 7, The Face of Depression. Maybe a bit closer to the top than you were expecting, but I think superbly well earned. This is an episode I find myself coming back to time and time again and not finishing it without tearing up. Personal growth in this show is not something that comes easy to anyone. If a character in the show wants to get better, they have to work hard at it, and they have to work at it consistently. Characters, just like in real life, don't become better people over the course of episodes, but over the course of seasons, and only if they put in the work. While he's certainly done some really bad things over the course of the show, Bojack has been working hard at being a better person, and very, very slowly getting better at it. This episode hit me really hard because it's where we truly internalize how far Bojack has come since the beginning of the show. Can you even imagine Season 1 Bojack being the person to indulge Mr. Peanut Butter's crossover episode dream, or to try to set up Todd with a random person he thinks would be good for him, or to show enough respect for himself that he forgives himself, which he does at the ceremony at the end of this episode when he says, "Peace be with you" to the other horses, but is overcome with emotion when he realizes he's really saying it to himself. The character growth exhibited in this episode is so impactful because it is so earned. You might be wondering how the show tops that, but it does, and twice. At number 2, we have Season 5, Episode 6, Free Churro. This episode is basically just Bojack giving one long monologue as he speaks at his mother's funeral, and it's incredible. What holds this entire speech together is this theme of being seen, as Bojack reflects upon his mother's last words, "I see you," only to realize that his mother was just reading a sign for the intensive care unit. But before that, he reflects upon the various significances of the phrase, "I see you," and this fundamentally human desire to be seen. Indeed, the title of this episode, Free Churro, refers to a churro given to Bojack by a Jack-in-the-Box employee once she found out his mom died. This act of giving Bojack a free dessert is an act of kindness symbolizing that he's been seen by this person he barely knows, which is something he then contrasts with how he's never gotten that from his parents. I also love the revelation Bojack has on the grand gestures found in television.
In TV, flawed characters are constantly showing people they care with these surprising grand gestures, and I think that part of me still believes that's what love is. But in real life, the big gesture isn't enough. You need to be consistent. You need to be dependably good. You can't just screw everything up and then take a boat out in the ocean to save your best friend or solve a mystery and fly to Kansas. You need to do it every day, which is so hard.
Yeah, this episode is perfectly executed. Some other moments that come to mind, Henrietta saying, "My husband is dead and everything is worse now." That opening bit with Bojack's dad, also voiced by Will Arnett, and Bojack saying he's felt his whole life like he's drowning, which, funny enough, connects very well to the episode at the number 1 spot on this list. At number 1, you guessed it, it's Season 6, Episode 15, The View from Halfway Down. Without exaggeration, this is one of the greatest pieces of television I've ever witnessed. And a lot of other people agree. For many weeks after the episode dropped, it was the 3rd highest rated episode on IMDb out of every episode of television ever. It's still on that list, by the way. I think it's around number 20 now. This episode basically answers the question, what revelations can you have on life when you're at the brink of death? And it does so by bringing back everyone in Bojack's life who has passed away over the course of the show. There's so much eerie imagery in this episode, from characters being served their last meal at dinner, where everyone shares really poignant insights into what gives life meaning, to the black tar that slowly encapsulates everything. Of course, I have to mention the actual poem, The View from Halfway Down, where Secretariat talks about ending his life and not being ready for death. It's super powerful and masterfully voice acted. The whole thing really communicates the horror and fear associated with this subject matter.
But this is it. The deed is done. Silence drowns the sound. Before I leaped, I should have seen the view from halfway down. No, I really should have thought about the view from halfway down.
Find your peace, big guy. Find it.
I wish I could have known about the view from halfway down.
And once again, we come back to this theme of finding comfort and friendship and meaning in the small, everyday aspects of life, as seen in the final lines of this episode when Bojack asks Diane if there's anything she can do to save him.
It's too late. What's done is done.
No.
There's nothing I can do, Bojack. I'm not real. None of this is.
So what do I do now?
Bojack, it doesn't matter.
Well, if it doesn't matter, can I stay on the phone with you at least?
Okay.
How was your day?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah. My day was good.
And with that, the list is done. I love this show so much. I hope you do too. Let me know in the comments what your favorite episode is or what the show as a whole has meant to you. I've heard so many stories about how this show has changed people's lives for the better, and I love hearing them, so please let me know in the comments. Download the Likewise app by clicking the link in the description if you want to get some recommendations for shows just like BoJack Horseman, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thanks!
Mr. Blue, I told you that I love you, please believe me.